talking to you.
对，他会说你来了，你要喂我吃东西呀。
Yeah, he's like, why aren't you feeding me?
Where are the crackers?
Ducks are reportedly quite intelligent. They can follow commands. If the commands were here in Taiwan, the duck would be responding to Mandarin and Taiwanese, kind of a hybrid. Welcome back to Runner's Garden, and this is part 2. My first video about the characters that you learn when you first get to Taiwan. We went over the character for morning, the numbers 1 through 10, nan and nu, so man and female, so you know the restrooms. The characters for big, middle, and small, useful for when you're buying stuff. If you haven't done so already, go back and review that video. I introduced a couple more characters on the City Walk with JC and Andrew, as well as the Linné Marathon and Linné Hike. Throughout this video, I'll put in some review. Review characters. Remember this one? Mei, which means beautiful. What I thought was interesting about that sign with the Lu Xingse, the travel agency, was that it was named Pan Am. That's brilliant. Have the English name of your company named after the defunct airline. I mean, there is name recognition there, right? Just really fascinated with signage here and the English that they come up with for names of shops and businesses. By nature of my mother tongue, I'll look at the English before I really see the Chinese. But now with my new series, What a Character, I pay more attention to the actual traditional Chinese characters that are on the signs. With a little help from your employers and friends that you meet here, I mean, you could totally get by without knowing any Chinese characters. Look, a lot of that is in English. But the other day I was in a situation where I was taking my colleague, Andrew, to do his immigration stuff, and I had to park in a parking lot. If I didn't know the Chinese, I wouldn't have known that they don't accept cash. 不收现金. I think you might have learned this before in my other video. Jin, as in Wu Jin or hardware, 5 gold. Wu Jin. The character for gold is used in the character for cash. Oh boy, some new graffiti. Ready to play? I think he's tired. The first character on your left is quite useful. It's man, which means full. This parking lot is full and I'm waiting. The character is made up of the water radical on the left, the grass radical on the top, and then the character for 2 or liang. Not the 1, 2, 2, but the liang. Liang. Man. That was 3rd tone. But if you change it to man, which is 4th tone, that's also a very useful character, which means slow. On the left, you have the heart radical, and on the right, you have the base form of also man, which means vast or extended. And this will tie in later when we go out to eat, because there's a related character. To me, that character looks like a man with his legs crossed like this and his arms crossed and his head refusing to move or slow to move. And again, the heart radical is on the left, and we're going to swap that out later at the end of the video to get another character. Slow, slow, slow. It's kind of funny that they elongate the character on the road so that you can see it when a car is moving fast. Our next character to learn is shui, or water. 加水, 加. So here you can fill up on water for a couple of coins. That's like an animal face. Look, they have lights for eyes. This one's smiling. I would go for this one. 水果. There's some shui. Here's a minimal stroke character. Gong. It looks like an I-beam. For a visual, I was going to show you one of the I-beams up in the ceiling, but that would be going to too much trouble, I think. There's that classic picture of those guys hanging above like 50 stories eating their lunch. You ever see that? See if you can find the word for work. Work, 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 work. They keep building these apartment buildings. That's an ugly one. That's a little bit better. If you join one of those language centers, you're going to be writing that character a lot. Because when you learn a language, you start from the self. That word was I. 我. This is the one that my Taiwanese wife wrote. And she pointed out that the first one that I wrote, this stroke here should be angled up. Little nuances to these things. And here is the character for love, commonly used. I. Fun fact, the character for love, or I, appears on the recreation of Bob Dylan's apartment in New York, as shown in the movie A Complete Unknown. Love's Cafe. Right now, nobody's giving it any love because it's not open. Notice the character for heart right in the middle. I love these little stools. You don't see these in the Western world. And here's love backwards. Knee, knee. You gotta learn knee. I'll teach you a little Chinese English joke that you can use with the kiddos in the classroom. So you say, what is this? They'll say, wall. And then you say, what is this? And they say, I. And then you say, what is this? They say, knee. Why knee? When you first get here, you'll probably be walking around. And then after that, maybe you have a bicycle, followed by a scooter, and maybe a car. The YMCA gave me this old bicycle when I first started working here in 1994. And the crankshafts would interfere with the turning of the front wheel. The pedal was stuck out so far that I had to have my pedals up and down in order to turn the front wheel. I didn't fall. But then I met my wife. She was always driving me around on her little scooter. It was like a total Flintstone mobile because it was only 50 cc's. When we had to go up hills, we had to like use our feet to push ourselves up the hill. And she drove me around in her little 小福特, which is a little Ford, which after we got married, we inherited that car for a while because I got jobs that required me to drive. For many, many years, I was using an international driver's license, which I would get at the AAA in America. And at that time, we were going back every year for our summer camps and visiting my folks. After about 10 years of doing that, I decided to take the driver's test, which was not that hard because the computer test was in English. Most of the rules are the same as in America for driving. The difference is you can't turn right on red here. When I actually took the driving test, my wife was able to sit in the car with me, and the instructor or the proctor stood with a clipboard watching me go around this course. I had to do like a K-turn, and I had to park, stop at a fake railroad crossing, things like that, just complete the course. Funny thing was, my wife was there to remind me. She's like, you see that stop sign there, right? I'm like, at that point I had been driving, I guess, 20 years. I've only had a few minor fender benders in Taiwan. When you get your driver's license here for cars, you automatically get a 50cc scooter license without having to take a scooter test. But if you have anything above 50 cc's, you have to take a driving test or a riding test, as the case may be. I am alley adventuring again. I like to find the little nooks and crannies. Interesting. Moving right along, I think it would be good to know the north, south, east, west characters. The directions appear in the city names. Bay is kind of minimal strokes, north. So now you know Taipei. Xiaobei Baihuo, the second character is north. Tai, I taught you that before. Taidong is a city name on the east. And look, here's an east. Dong. Dong. Nan is south, as in Tainan. Hainanji, South Seas chicken. There's south also. Now all I need is a west. Where's the west? Chaodong Chaoxi. If you take the characters for east and west and put them together, you get Dongxi, which means things. Here's a lot of things. And Do Dongxi. So festive. Remember what that is. That was Zhao with a particularly big R. Ooh, a new restaurant. They're expecting to have long lines. Deposit your ashes here, not there. So they have a place for your cigarette butt, but not a place for your pack. Look at the little cutout for the tree. I like that. I like the middle one right there. Dian. Commonly used character. Looks like a plug and it looks like an outlet. Dianhua. Dianshi. Here's a good one to know. So, I'll tell you how I remember this one. On the left, you have the radical for he, which is grain seeding, especially for rice. The pronunciation is zu, which kind of sounds like zoo, and that right side looks like a cage. You know, like with monkeys and animals. I certainly hope you don't feel trapped in your lease that you zoo. Here's some of my Chinese studies materials. This one was a classic. Making out in Chinese. Anyway, we're gonna go in a new direction. We're gonna go in alphabetical order. What do you mean? Chinese characters are not in alphabetical order? I view it as going in the order of romanization of Chinese. So we're just gonna start with what we would see in English as the letter A and the characters that start with A in Pinyin, which really should be pronounced as Pinyin. If you can learn one character, you can learn 3 by changing a radical, and it'll be very similar pronunciation. Same pronunciation, but different tone. Doesn't happen all the time. If you watched the video of JC and my hike recently in Linei, I introduced the character A, which is a prefix to names and is also used in transliteration. I'll just briefly review that one more time here and add a little bit to it by adding a radical. See if I can find something to draw with. Those are tools. And then if you put a mouth radical over here, a little higher. Interestingly, on my walk, I did see the Juin Fu Hao, or the Bopomofo which looks like a Y. It's a phonetic system if you're learning Chinese. So I saw that on signs. Like there was a place that was selling, I think it was like duck. If you saw the Y on that sign, it's not a Y, it's It's the phonetic symbol for that sound of, again, this character. If you haven't done so already, I do recommend learning the symbols of what we call Juin Fu Hao. You can see the symbols on my dirty keyboard at the top here, above the letters. Or Bo Po Mo Fo. And that will enable you to read children's books, which is a big help for your reading. Here's my children's book on Gandhi. Notice how it opens the reverse way that you are used to. Table of contents. The character, and here's the phonetic system. And the tones are indicated by those little lines. So that would be fourth tone, second tone. You're gonna see a lot of those. The last character on both lines is cha, tea. Check out the door on this place. It's pretty cool. I love all the use of the glass bricks here. Just side view that building. I just did this the other day. I don't need to do it again. Look at this old machinery. Give me a thumbs up if you think cranes are just badass. Got the old and the new here. So each video that I'll put out, we'll try to work on one sound form with the different tones. And then for fun, I'll just go out and try to find the character. I mean, that would show how useful it is. If you watched from the beginning, I showed you the character for slow. And I said that if you change a radical, you can change a meaning, but retain pretty much the same sound, except for sometimes the tone. So here's an example of that. We're on an adventure. Do you know where we are? Do you know what this structure is? Okay. 过马路哦。
好的。加油！那你快点哦。
快点，快点。
You want to try this one? Upstairs is eel.
Teppanyaki.
Ew, they're like nails.
Look, those are big beer cans. We changed our mind again. This looks nicer. Surely they have more than just eel. Man yu, that's eel. Change the heart radical for the fish radical on the left, and you change slow to eel. Did you fall?
No, I will just run and then just go this way.
不是跑步哦，你要像这样，对。新年快乐！红包拿来！
贴春联。
大家。And now we have 恭喜。阿信。